What's up, people? Let's talk about Spider-Man with No Way Home coming out, and most likely gonna have Willem Dafoe, a bunch of Spider-Man villains coming back, and maybe Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield can come back. I decided to go through all the Spider-Man movies and review them all. So, of course, the one we should start with is Spider-Man. The one that started all from 2002, directed by Sam Raimi, and yeah. So, there is a few things to talk about. So I guess to start would be talking about Peter Parker himself. Um, so, in my opinion, Tom Holland is the best Peter Parker and Spider-Man, but I do respect Tobey Maguire. A lot of people do say he's the best one. I disagree, but I do respect his work in this trilogy, in this first one. Um, all three of them actually. So yeah. Okay. Now I'm thinking about it. I think Maguire plays the best Peter Parker, a little better than Holland. Now that I think about it. Like he plays that awkward kid, and he gets bullied, but he still gets back up. He never complains, even though he gets beat up a lot. Um, one of the best things about Spider-Man that everybody's pointed out is that he's a relatable character. The idea is that Into the Spider-Verse dealt with pretty well is that anybody can be Spider-Man. He's just an everyday person who just happens to get superpowers. So that's what Peter Parker is, and Maguire played that really well. Being a relatable person, getting beat up but still getting back up. Saw a video talking about how he's like the strongest Spider-Man because he gets beat up so many times in all three movies, but he always gets back up. Like all three climaxes, he always gets his mask, ripped and his suit ripped up. Uh, like that should tell you how much. Like even Holland didn't have that much, or Andrew Garfield, but um, and yeah, not most. Not, and the origin is pretty well done. Like I'm not a comic book guy, but I know the general story about his origin, and this movie condenses his origin into the first hour, and it's pretty streamlined. You know, we all know the basics. He gets bitten by a radioactive spider. He gets superpowers, and then he gets selfish and wants to use them for his own deeds. But Uncle Ben, tells him with great power comes great responsibility. And then he ends up getting shot because Peter let that crook go. And then he ends up deciding to follow his uncle's wishes. My only complaint with the origin is the way they transition from Uncle Ben dying to him being Spider-Man. We see him get revenge, we see him graduate, and then all of a sudden he's in New York with the Spider-Man costume we all know and love. There's no real transition from here to there. It just kind of jumps. Like it's really awkward the way they do that. Like they couldn't have shown us him finally finishing the suit. So that part's a little rushed. But other than that, the origin's pretty good. And what else? And you got not much else to say. Hey, Peter Parker is really good in this. This, his Spider-Man is okay. Like Holland and Garfield did the quips a lot better. Maguire's was always a little iffy. Like, it's you who's out, Gobby, out of your mind. Like, oh, yikes! You can tell that was somebody just thought that was a cheesy line and was like, let's put it in there, and it's, oh. Is that the only one from the first movie? Probably is. Like the first, um, odd quip, but yeah. But as a lot of people say, a hero is only as good as his villain, which isn't always the case with superheroes. I mean, look at all the weak villains in the MCU, but Yeah, I'd say this one applies. Willem Dafoe is Green Goblin, which, holy crap, is Willem Dafoe having a blast in this movie. It's I always have a fun time watching him. I think, although everybody's already pointed out how the costume looks like a Power Rangers costume, which, yeah, it definitely does, but that's part of what makes it even more fun. That's part of what makes me smile every time I see it. Like, oh, that looks so corny. And apparently, I found out almost every time we see the suit, it's always Willem Dafoe, or at least most of the time, it's Willem Dafoe in the costume because he didn't think the stunt double could like imitate him. So that's cool to know. Oh, um, yeah, not much else to say about him. Like Norman Osborn's cool. Um, oh, I do like how when he dies, as his last thought is, "Don't tell Harry." Like he thinks about his son instead of himself. So at least like he does try to kill Peter, but there's still some Norman in there. So yeah. And now it's been confirmed he's coming back in No Way Home, so I'm pretty excited to see him come back. I wonder if they're gonna bring back the costume. They probably will. It'll look corny in the MCU, but oh well. I mean, the MCU does have a lot of corny things in it, but yeah. As for supporting characters, first there's Mary Jane Watson, who, yeah, is, she's okay. A lot of people have already made jokes about how many times she gets captured, which is so true. Ooh, that's literally the climax for all three movies. She's captured, and now Peter Parker has to save her. So yeah, in this movie, she's mostly just a screaming girl who gets captured and who looks pretty. I mean, she does have some character. When the biggest character moment for her I can think of is when when we see her break up with Flash at the graduation ceremony. Um, yeah, like there's honestly not that much to her. She's okay. Like it's just that they could have improved on her instead of just making her the pretty girl who always needs to be saved, always the damsel in distress. Um, yeah. Other supporting characters, there's Uncle Ben, who is definitely the best Uncle Ben, although there are only two live action Uncle Bens. And he delivers the "with great power comes with great responsibility" speech very well. Like, you believe he is a wise old man that Peter has to follow, even if he doesn't at first. Aunt May's cool in this, though she's probably the weakest in this one. Like, in the other two, she definitely has some wise words to say. She doesn't have much wise words in this one. None that I can think of, actually. Maybe. Harry Osborn. Yeah, he's pretty cool. He does get a lot better in the sequels, but in this one, he's all right. He has this thing with MJ, and he ends up breaking up with her because Norman tells him to. And we see his revenge plot that he's always about in the next two movies being set up at the end. But yeah, Harry probably has the least amount to do in this one. It's just like MJ. No, not MJ. Aunt May. Is that all supporting characters? Yeah, sounds like it. Oh wait, crap! I forgot. There's one more, which is J.K. Simmons as J. Jonah Jameson. Everybody's already said it, but J.K. Simmons is like so perfect as JJ. Yeah, he is so enjoyable every time he's on screen. Does he have less screen time in this one or in 3? Because he has the most screen time in 2. But yeah, again, not much else to say. He's pitch perfect, perfect casting. I hope we get to see more of him in No Way Home. But yeah, so I think that's all about characters. Now talking about other stuff to mention. Well, I guess the first thing is the CGI is, holy cow! Like the Raimi trilogy has always had really iffy CGI. I think it's the worst in this one. You know, when you're seeing Peter run across the buildings, it's like, oh, that looks, oh, yikes. I also noticed it looked really iffy in the scene where he's going after Uncle Ben. And, well, no, he's not going after Uncle Ben. He's going after Uncle Ben's killer. It was like, oh, wow, that looked so fake. And it, you don't, doesn't CGI usually look better in the dark? Um, yeah, there's a lot of CGI in this that just has not aged well. Like, remember, this movie did come out in the same year as the second Lord of the Rings movie and the second Harry Potter movie, which both had amazing CGI. Well, even Attack of the Clones had some good CGI. But, yeah. Um, action scenes. The action, there's not this movie probably has the least amount of action because it's mostly focusing on origin stuff. When the action does get going, like I think it mostly starts at the Times Square. You know, that's when it's all action. Honestly, the action at the Times Square is a lot of fun. To be honest, a lot of things don't make sense, and that's part of what like the best. Um, yeah, not much else to say. Honestly, when Norman screams, "We'll meet again, Spider-Man!" Honestly, that I just laugh every time I hear that because it's like that is so corny, but I love it. I say it's like this movie is really, really corny, and that's why I have a lot of fun watching it. Um, and I guess the only other action scene between Peter and Norman, well, I guess there is in the fire, but not much there. The only other real action scene between them is the climax with the bridge. Um, oh, and the New Yorkers, when they go and throw the stuff at Norman, I'm just thinking, huh, so this came out after 9/11. You don't say. Oh, this came out after 9/11? You don't say. Honestly, not much else to say. It is corny. It, like, oh yeah, it's so obvious, but oh well. Um, I will admit though, the fight between Peter and Norman, like, I don't know where they are, but in that dark place, that was pretty violent. It's like that is one of like the hardest action scenes to watch in a superhero movie. Like up there with Tony fighting Thanos in Infinity War. It's like, wow. It is just so freaking brutal. And yeah, you see Peter get down. That's what I was talking about earlier. Like, you see Peter get beat down so freaking hard that it feels so rewarding seeing him get back up again and fight Norman. It's like, yes! So, yeah, action-wise, this movie doesn't have the best of the trilogy, but some are fun, some are hard to watch, but that's kind of the point. So, yeah. Oh, also a couple more story points. I noticed after Green Goblin attacks JJ and then captures Spider-Man, there's suddenly this whole little story plot about Spider-Man being hated. Like, that only I swear that only lasted for like 10 minutes. And when I saw that, I was thinking, isn't that what No Way Home's gonna do? I just realized, yeah, Far From Home set that up, and now No Way Home's gonna do that. So, like, the idea that people hate Spider-Man for whatever reason. So, yeah, I saw that, and I was like, wow. And the last thing is, of course, the end, where Peter and MJ don't get together at the end. Honestly, even back in 2002, that was pretty bold not to have them get together. Like, I really thought they would have when I first saw this. And it ends with a triumphant swinging through the city, which is probably the best CGI in the whole movie. So yeah, overall, Spider-Man is a pretty fun movie. Like, I personally really enjoy it. From what I've gathered, at least with friends at work or my cousins, seems like like people they're like mixed about the Sam Raimi movies. Some will say, "Oh, I love them. They're fun." Others will say, "They're too corny." But it's like, me personally, even though I didn't watch these movies until after I got used to Tom Holland as Spider-Man. It's like these movies are so corny, but that's part of what makes them fun. And this first one definitely is probably no, three is the corniest, but this first one pretty corny as well. And again, that's what makes it fun. There is some good storytelling in here. Like it does delve into the origin story very well. Willem Dafoe as Green Goblin is a lot of fun. Tobey Maguire plays Peter Parker the best part, the best way. I would say even better than Holland, even though Holland's my favorite Spider-Man. Um, yeah, that's about it. That's all I can think of. Spider-Man's a fun movie, and I will soon get to Spider-Man 2 next. So, peace!